Good evening and welcome to the October 15th Town of Penfield Transportation Committee. My name's Andy Moore, Town Board Member and Chairman of the Transportation Committee. Real quick before we begin, I'd just like to do a quick housekeeping memo or housekeeping piece of information. Due to the COVID-19 virus, the closing of town operations consistent with Governor's executive order, including Executive Order 202.1, which suspends certain provisions of the Open Meetings Law, and Executive Order 202.15, which postpones public hearings unless they can be held remotely through the Executive Order 202.5 or use of telephone conference, video conference, and/or other similar services. The October 15th, 2020 Transportation Committee meeting will be held remotely beginning at 5 p.m. and end at 6 p.m. In-person public access to the Town Hall facility will not be permitted. This meeting will be video recorded and broadcast live via the town website at penfield.org, on the town government's access cable channel 1303, and streaming media devices Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Search Penfield TV on your device app store. It's free. The meeting will be later transcribed. For questions regarding video coverage, please contact Penfield TV at 340-8661. Thank you. We'll go ahead and move with the next agenda item of today's meeting with approval of minutes. This is the minutes of the meeting on September 17th, 2020.
I move to approve them as is.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, got moved by Lori, second by Mary. Anybody else, any other comments for this approval of minutes? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Thank you. Public participation, item number 3. Do we have anybody from the public who would like to participate in this meeting tonight? I'm not seeing any phone calls coming in. I'm not seeing any emails. So I don't see any public participation for this meeting. Thank you. Item number 4, committee discussion. We'll start with A, Woodcrest Drive, Burrow Hills Drive traffic concerns status update. Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is one we chatted about, and all of them tonight are kind of carryovers from last month's conversation. So we had concerns about the speeds on Burrows Hills Drive. So subsequent to that, we did put out traffic tube counters as we do. We've got our easy belt that goes across the street. We did collect the data for that road, and let me pull that up. Burrows Hills. So as PCT, pops that up, we've got a new program that kind of breaks it down a little bit different than we did before, picks up the location of it, kind of gives us a little bit more information, shows the time period that it was out, from when to when, how many cars were analyzed, what the speed limit on the road is, 85th percentile as this group knows and talks about. And then it's got a new feature on here that talks about what the time of violation or, the time that, some enforcement may be needed, which is kind of neat that pops up with that. So one thing of note, obviously Burrows Hills, if you've been down there, we put it on the incline of the road. So as you're going down, you're picking up some more speed in that area. I'm sure that's where a lot of the concern was. So looking at the 85th percentile was 31. It's up a little bit. We do look at anything above 5 miles over, in our typical chart, kind of starts to become an area of concern. We did share this location as well as the list of other ones from the last meeting with the Sheriff's Office, for some, potential enforcement in that area. But, wasn't excessive, obviously with the 85th percentile, as this group knows, that's capturing 85% of the cars drive at that speed or less. So obviously there are some anomalies, is where we all live. Some people do, go above that, but it's showing the majority of the people are keeping relative to the speed limit. There's a little bit of, an uptick, above the 25 in that area. So we have asked for some, additional enforcement from the sheriff's office to, do some patrols in that area. But based on the data we've got, the number of cars we have, it falls in our typical, enforcement area. We can look to put the speed card out there in the future for some, feedback for the drivers on the road. But that's kind of where we're at, at this point. We did ask for accident data, and I don't believe we had any accident data on Burrows Hills.
Okay. So Mark, does the town have a recommendation moving forward? Do we still need to get some more data points, or have we come to a conclusion with the residents' concern?
Yeah, I think it's just enforcement related at this point.
Okay.
I don't think, based on what we've seen, recommending, anything additional to that. Possibly the speed cart, just as a reminder, residents coming down the hill.
Right.
Obviously, coming up the hill, I would expect, and I don't have the, the granular data in front of me to, to pull that up, but, as expected, going up the hill would be slower, coming down, would have some more speed. So I think at most, adding the speed card in there just as a, a reminder for the residents. I know we put it out on Highland Drive a while ago. We had a concern there, and the resident that we put it out said, he immediately noticed a difference. It was by the school. Once school started,
Right.
We put it over there and said, a lot of times people just need a reminder that, we all kind of drive absent-mindedly at times. You get rolling down the road, you're just not paying attention. That kind of gives you that feedback reminder. You can see the visual reminder of the speed limit, go, oh my goodness, and then, slow down. So I think the vast majority of people aren't trying to, be nefarious and go exceptionally fast. I think people just kind of get, lost in their day and,
Okay.
drive a little mindlessly. So, but yeah, we did get, thank you to Eric for putting it out on Highland, but did get some positive feedback from the resident over there that, they noticed a difference right away, and, that may help on this road as well.
Okay, so I think I would like to make the recommendation to the committee that town staff put a correspondence together to the resident that contacted the town with information and the data that has been found to date, and then also a recommendation that the town schedule the speed cart to go in this particular area as an education for the neighborhood on how fast they're traveling and what the speed limit is moving forward. If that's okay with the committee, I'll open it up for discussion.
No, I think that's a perfect idea, Andy.
Okay. Do I hear any other, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mary.
No, I was just gonna say, that's fine with me.
Okay. All right, then I'm not hearing any dissent to that, and if it's okay, we'll go ahead and move forward with that recommendation for that correspondence to go out to the resident, and for them to be informed of what the town will be doing moving forward. So, okay, thank you. Item B, which is Harmon Road speeding concern, kind of the same thing, I believe.
Yep, very similar. Again, if you can see on your screen, our new unit does capture kind of GPS location. I don't know why it moves, but it must pick up the data and the little skew every day. So we didn't move it around. You can see the multiple points on there. We did put it out first week of September. We did capture 3,000 cars coming through that area. Again, speed limit's 25. We got an 85th percentile at 29. Again, it kind of captured that time of day if there is violations. It even does, an enforcement rating. This one, and I don't know the formula that it uses, but it did say, it was a low enforcement in that area. Again, I think this is an area that onesie, twosies, there are people that do speed, that are above that speed limit. I know Harmon has become a bit of a cut through, Harmon to Woodside. People looking to avoid the light at 5 Mile and 441. So I think, I'm sure at those peak times, there is more cut through traffic. Again, I think, asking for some police enforcement just to kind of patrol that area, watch, especially during those drive times, morning drive time, evening drive time. I believe we have had the speed card out there in the past. But I think, as it's, with Waze and other, apps now, people are finding alternate routes and, different ways to, avoid traffic lights or traffic. They're finding more neighborhood streets. And so Harmon and Woodside has become a bit of a, this is one of the ones that, is a potential cut-through street. So I think to keep a close eye on this. But on Harmon, we didn't see an excessive amount of speeding. Again, that's the 85th percentile. It's not picking up the highest speed or, but I think, our recommendation is, again, enforcement on this one, and then, continue to follow up the speed card as, as needed.
Okay.
I know our season's kind of running out for that as we get to snow season. We don't put that out anymore, but, we can have targeted spots there and then, again, follow up in the springtime.
Okay. So I would like to make the recommendation to the committee members, kind of along the same lines as Woodcrest Drive, Burrow Hills, that a letter be sent from the town to the individual resident who expressed this concern with the data and information that we've just discussed, and then also a scheduling of the speed cart on Harmon Road moving forward. I'll open it up to discussion by the board.
I think that sounds very reasonable, just like the previous one.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Any other recommendations from the board? Not hearing.
One thing, Andy and Mark, I think it's interesting to note, that at least the way I'm reading this data here, that peak time of the violations appears to be soon after the card is put out, and then it tails off. So it reiterates the fact that the education component of this comes into play, and it does work, right? This one was 9/8. It was a little after, but the last one was the same day. And after that, it was obviously less. So
Right.
If I'm reading the data right here, this peak time, is that correct, Mark?
Yeah, that's showing the cart, typically we don't put the cart out at the exact same time as we put the tubes out, but people may see the tubes and we're counting them on the road. So typically we alter those so the cart is out, alternatively, slightly different than this, but this is when we put the tubes out. So maybe that has the same effect. People see the tubes across the road, know we're collecting data, know, that we're kind of monitoring the area, and then maybe, you hear it as you go over it, at least, even if you don't see it. So maybe they, correct their action from there. But our cart doesn't collect any data. It's just purely a feedback device. So that we've got these little collection boxes at the side of the road.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments from committee members? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move with that recommendation moving forward. We'll move on to item C, Brougham Road, a speeding concern.
So this one we've heard from a few times in the last year. We had the resident in and met with a group pre-COVID, shared with some concerns. This is not a cut-through street. This is kind of a neighborhood issue. It's right off of Jackson, excuse me. Some concerns about, vehicles on Phaeton that may not be driving the speeds that they should. We did adjust the location of it. They asked us for another, I think actually this may be our last year's count, but it showed the speeds, the 29 miles per hour and 85th percentile is not terrible. It is speeding, yes, but as we've seen, that's pretty typical all over. But this road in particular, we did talk about having some police patrol. This identifies as, I think the resident shared, kind of that 5-6 o'clock time period. This shows this shows at 5:48 p.m. is the highest time, people coming home from work. And I think that's also the time that, she shared kids are out in the street playing, and I think there was a concern about, interactions between kids on their bicycle, pedestrians, people driving in and out. But this also was the street we had talked about sending out a letter to the neighbors. So Linda had shared a letter. We kind of put a draft letter together to share with those residents on Brougham, Phaeton, and Coachman. Didn't know if the committee had any input, feedback on that letter. That was kind of our first, stab at it. Just kind of reminder to people, hey, please be aware of pedestrians. Please, be where there's speed limit in your neighborhood, we are asking for additional police, patrols in the area. Hopefully that, will be, again, a good reminder to the other neighbors. If the group is happy with this letter, I think this can become a template for us as we have these situations in other neighborhoods. Now that we've had that developed, that, we can share that with, with other neighbors, and hopefully that'll, have some impact as well. So kind of a multi-phase educational approach with the letter, some feedback with the cart, and then if need be, get the sheriff's office involved. But
Yeah. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, on residential roads with the speed limit of 25 miles an hour, the state of New York does not allow a town to go less than 25 miles an hour on a speed limit. Is that correct or incorrect?
that is correct. Yeah, you can't go any lower than 25. And actually at 25, you can't just have an area speed limit. You've got to post it,
Okay.
all the way through. I think if it's 30 or above, you can say area speed limit going into a neighborhood is 30 miles an hour. But
So when we look at some speeding concerns by residents in a residential street, let's say, for instance, this one where speed limit's 25 miles an hour, lowering the speed limit is just not an option because the state of New York does not allow us
No.
to go.
No, and
a
we've
lower
had the
speed limit.
conversation with residents before, and they said, couldn't you go lower? I think the only exception is in a school zone.
Right.
So you can post it lower just in a school zone, but other than that, yeah, you can't post it lower, if it's a private drive or something.
Right.
It's possibly, but as we're talking town dedicated roads, yeah, you can't post it any
Okay.
lower than 25.
All right. I'd like to, kind of moving forward here, recommend to the Transportation Committee that correspondence be sent to the resident with this information. Also, I think that this is a prime location for the town speed cart to be scheduled to be placed, and then also a continued discussion with the Monroe County Sheriff's Office on, random enforcement. Maybe in correspondence, or when we reach out to the sheriff's office, we can kind of tell them when some peak times are based on the data that we have.
Yeah, that's helpful
Of
with
the
that, yeah.
day, that maybe they could have a car there for a half hour or so during that time, to kind of, have a presence, have a visible presence to individuals that may be exceeding the speed limit by a large margin.
Yeah,
So-
with this new unit, it's been helpful that it does kind of pinpoint that, and you can get that data out of there a little bit easier of when that targeted time is.
Okay.
So if we can,
Yeah.
share that with the sheriff's office with that, and then I don't know if the group had any thoughts, feedback on the letter as well.
Any comments from the committee?
I really liked that letter. It was really nice that you guys sent it out to us, obviously beforehand, so we could read through. I thought that's just a perfect template to be able to send out, because we get so many of we hear the same issues. So this is very helpful.
Yeah, I thought it was a good letter too. The only thing about that, trying to lower the speed limit, this has come up several times the years I've been on this committee, of course. And one thing that we used to say is that, cars today can almost roll on 15 miles per hour or 20. So to put it below 25, I just don't know how you could do that. It takes us back to education, either using the cart or something to help these residents understand about driving the speed limit or within reason. But I wouldn't vote to have the speed limit ever go down. And I'm glad to hear Mark say it has to be something from the state, I guess.
Yeah, state law doesn't allow it below 25, so that's kind of where we're limited anyway. We've posted, all of our subdivisions as 25, but that's as low as we can post them. So if people ask for it, unfortunately, that's even out of our hands, even if we wanted to.
Okay.
But
All right, is that progress plan, or is that the steps that we've proposed acceptable to the committee members?
Yeah, Andy, are you suggesting that you we add this text to this letter here? Because it really doesn't talk about what you had mentioned in the response. This talks about just the reminder and the.
yeah, we can incorporate that as
not talking
well.
about-
Well, yes and no. I think that this letter is just kind of the general letter that goes to the neighbors or neighborhood, letting them know that, everybody's got to be thinking about what their speeds are and be conscientious of other residents in the general area, since the speeding's probably caused by people that live there or people that are visiting there, not necessarily through traffic. Certainly, I think something could be put in this letter that talks about, the speed limit of 25 can't really be placed lower than that per New York state law. But I don't want to overemphasize that, because this letter really is just about a friendly reminder to everybody to just be more conscientious when you're driving, and to tell your friends and family to be more conscientious when they're driving on this particular road. So,
I like Lori's comment about it being a template. For now, I think it's fine, and we could certainly add, if we needed to add something very specific to a neighborhood or whatever.
right, yep, I agree, Mary. It's a good point.
Yeah, we kind of try to make it general, and then as we've got this in our arsenal of items and educational, and then as you said, Mary and Lori, and Tim as well, we can add in individual things, depending on the neighborhood and what goes on, but this kind of gives us at least a base to work from, and something the group is happy with, and then we can send it out on behalf of the committee and, share it with the neighborhood.
Yep. All right, is that, those steps okay with the committee?
Yep, that's
Yes.
fine.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, then we will move forward with that, that plan of action, or that action plan. All right, moving on to item D, Farmbrook Drive and Panorama Trail, another traffic concern.
Yes, this came up at the last committee discussion. I think some was, and I'm just trying to pull up the accident data, excuse me for scrolling. So we did reach out to the sheriff's office for any accident data, and this also came out and related to access to the school district, or excuse me, school bus pickup. So we did reach out. The accident, the first location, this goes back to 2015. There was an accident at the location of Farmbrook and Browncroft Boulevard. On the other end of Farmbrook, not really related to the Farmbrook Panorama Trail intersection. The next one again was Farmbrook in Browncroft Boulevard. And then the third one was Farmbrook and Browncroft Boulevard. And then the last one, there was a failure to yield at Farmbrook. Somebody pulled out onto Panorama. This potentially could be sight distance related. I know we do continue to look at sight distance in the area. If we've got to trim trees back, Eric and his crew, are always looking for locations if there is, poor sight distance in the area for it. So we'll continue to follow up with that. I did reach out to the school district. Shame on me that I just got to the school district just this week, so a little later than I had hoped, but I did reach the school district, talk to them. They are going to look at, is it possible to, reroute the bus so that the kids don't have to cross Panorama to go to Rossbrook. I don't have the answer back yet, but I did make contact with the school district. They are going to look at that. That was, one of the, or several of the concerns from the neighbors we saw in the last group's email was, the kids in the morning and evening having to cross Panorama Trail and go over to Rossbrook. So those are kind of our initial takes at it. We can look at the intersection, whether, a crosswalk makes sense. That's a little bit longer of an analysis. You've got a twisty, winding road with, some elevation and grade, so it's not a simple measure to just throw a crosswalk in the middle of, a mid-block crosswalk. You've got to look at sight distance, so I think we need some further evaluation of that. But the initial one was look at the accident data. We received that. Second was talk about, possible where can you modify the school pickup. Longer term, we can look at, is there potential for, pedestrian crossing or something else with that, but don't want to rush into that one before we, have opportunity to evaluate that appropriately.
Okay. Any comments from committee members?
Oh, no, not for me.
Not for me either.
Okay. All right, then I think the recommendation moving forward, or I'd like to make the recommendation to the committee moving forward to kind of stick with what Mark was saying, and stay vigilant with the school district, because I think that is something that is definitely a safety issue at that spot, and certainly they should take a look at that I'm sure they will, but let's just stay on top of that.
Yep.
And I believe that was, pretty much it I think it was an intersection-related concern with the school
Yeah,
district.
it wasn't as
and
much
and
the
bus
speed on the
stop.
road, or some of those was just the
Right.
bus stop, and then the safety of students crossing it, as well
Yep.
as, other walkers. So, we'll continue to look at that, but obviously with, students first and foremost, we'll see if we can, work with the school district to find a alternate bus stop.
Okay,
I think could
great.
help a lot of that.
All right, if that's okay with the committee members, anybody with any other recommendations or suggestions, or we'll move forward with that game plan?
That's fine.
Okay? All right, thank you. Moving on to item E, Woodfield Drive.
So this one, we did speed counts just to check it, but this one had the concern of, we've got some mid-block stop signs at Periwinkle and at Mount View Crescent. So we do have some stops, in between where we collected the data. We had concerns from the resident that people weren't stopping there. If people aren't stopping at stop signs, it's pretty much all an enforcement issue. Would fall under the sheriff's department to, have some patrols. We did share that with their office to follow up on that. I don't think, I drove through there, it's not a visibility issue. You can see the stop sign. At least pulling up to Periwinkle, you do have, I think, very good sight distance. So I think whether people take unfair advantage of that, see that there's no one coming, and then just kind of slow down and roll through it. But I think it's, an enforcement issue. If people aren't stopping at a stop sign, that's, need to write a few tickets and, change the behavior. We did do a culvert replacement out on Woodfield Drive, so that kind of severed the neighborhood, for a short period of time. I don't know if that had, any change or impact on cut-through traffic. Again, I don't think it's a cut-through from Plank to Scribner, a main line, but, a lot of people come in Woodfield and then access, Timberline or Rodney or, some of the other neighbors, neighborhoods beyond that. But ran the data on this one, 85th percentile, we were at, 27 miles per hour. Again, kind of within parameters what we normally take a look at. Again, it looks like kind of that evening drive time is, peak times for speed, but this one we weren't really looking at speed. This one was, people, going through the stop signs and not stopping, and, potentially creating a pedestrian issue of, if they're expecting someone to stop and they don't. So this one wasn't as speed related. We just kind of put it out for that, but,
Yep.
shared with the sheriff's office that, they might want to, put a car there and keep an eye on the stop signs.
Any comments from committee members?
No,
No?
This is a location that the speed cart will be put out on in the next probably week or two.
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right, so Mark, why don't we, or I'd like to make the recommendation to the committee that we stick with that game plan. I'm not sure there's a whole lot else we can do unless I'm missing something. I mean, you kind of hit on a couple different issues, and certainly we can try to slow speed down the best we can under conditions. I mean, it looks like speeding's not necessarily a huge issue at 27 miles an hour as the 85th percentile in a 25 mile an hour speed zone. I think it's just more recognition of the stop signs and the intersections,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, it's just people following traffic control devices and,
Yeah, so maybe what we can do is reach out to the Monroe County Sheriff's Office like we are doing in some of the other scenarios or situations, and request some sheriff's presence near these intersections just to have a visible deterrent for people that may want to, speed right through the intersection or do a rolling stop at the intersection. They may think twice about that when they know that there's the potential of a sheriff's car being somewhere nearby monitoring that.
Sure.
So I'd like to add that to our next steps.
Okay.
All right, so with the committee, is that for next steps, is that okay with the committee, or is there some other recommendations that we can discuss?
It sounds
I
good to
like
me.
that.
Okay. All right. I think we've got consensus on next steps here moving forward. Last item is Wedgewood Drive. Again, speeding concerns. Mark?
Yeah, and this one came up at our last meeting and was shared by a resident of the area. And this one was a little bit different to note as off of Gebhardt. This is a cul-de-sac. This is an end of the street. We did the counts on it as requested. 85th percentile came back at 26. But I think their concern wasn't so much for the residents, but said it was more the delivery drivers.
Right.
It
Right.
poses a little bit more of a challenge for us to kind of follow up with every delivery driver. I know, at my house, I've been home and you've had people stop by from, delivering Amazon Prime, and they've showed up in their car, they've showed up in a van, they've showed up, other things. So it's not, if it's the mail lady, mailman, they may be a regular, you can talk to them. But some of these other groups are, a little bit tough to follow up on. We did look at it, the 85th percentile, again, the percentage that people are driving, 85% or less, doing 26. Again, not saying the one-offs, some delivery person, pizza guy, woman, going down into the street, turning around
Right.
and going back out, aren't going faster. Those are the ones, that are a little tougher to kind of keep an eye on. It says that, the peak time is 2 o'clock, so it seems to make sense if it's the UPS or
Right.
Amazon Prime or not picking on anybody in particular, but just
Yes,
one
you
of those, just one of those groups. I'm not getting my packages for Christmas this year now. But
So maybe what we can do then is, because clearly, at least I believe there's not really a speeding issue per se from the neighbors. And if the concern was more focused on delivery, and I can't remember, and my notes don't show it, on the resident that expressed the concern, which delivery it
Yeah,
was. Because
yeah, I don't
if we
remember.
knew that it was a certain pizza delivery place or a certain,
I believe it was kind of a combination
Yeah,
of FedEx,
then-
UPS.
Okay.
I think it was just kind of
Okay.
a delivery
Amazon.
services.
Anyone and everyone.
Yeah, those
Yeah,
delivery
okay.
services in general, which makes it a little tougher. But you said if it was ABC Pizza, and I won't
Right.
name a name this time, but ABC Pizza is the one that's going fast, we can call ABC Pizza and say, hey, your delivery guy's,
yeah.
going a little quick.
I
and-
wrote UPS and Amazon.
Yeah, and then as I say, Amazon, I've seen them show up in every different kind of delivery vehicle lately, so it's, it's not, the same UPS driver or the same Amazon person to say that's their route, and, you could speak to them individually, so that,
All right. Well, maybe what we can do is at least get the speed cart down there as as an education mechanism. Continue to monitor this via the transportation committee and the resident, and if we need to readdress it, down the road in a few months, then maybe we can get a better gauge of the type of delivery service, or just kind of see where we are moving forward if the speed cart, isn't helping.
Okay.
And then take another look at some type of correspondence on behalf of the town to the individual delivery company, that maybe we have more specifics of
yeah, I
who
mean, if they come back
exactly it
with
is.
somebody in particular, obviously we can reach out and,
Right.
handle it directly, and
So, okay. Any comments from transportation committee members?
Yep. My notes, I had that the counter was out. I think I said August. The counter, but we would collect data.
yeah, we did it, actually, it ended up being early September, so I think in our data, we did collect the data. It came back at 26.
That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I'd like to recommend that that's kind of our game plan moving forward on this particular item. And we may need to readdress this one, in the next couple months, but let's just kind of see if we can help getting the speed cart out there, and seeing if that kind of curtails some of the speeding by, looks like to be a handful of delivery type companies, not necessarily in one business sector, could be, across the board. We can get more information on that and maybe readdress it at some meetings in the future.
Yeah.
Is that okay with the committee moving forward?
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds good to me.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving to agenda item number 5, other business. The only one that we have on the agenda is just looking at our 2021 meeting dates. I really don't see anything different from year to year other than a little bit of a break during the summer months. Is that an accurate statement, Mark?
Yeah, this is very
Okay.
similar to what we have. We just bring this up every year to confirm it, get it to the website. At this point in time, obviously with COVID,
Yeah,
we're proposing to continue with these, 5 o'clock, 5 to 6 meeting times. Obviously, if something changes, this is over, we can reevaluate that.
Yeah.
But that was our other change, was to kind of stick with this time frame, this format. Keep it on, Thursday, 5 to 6 for the foreseeable future, given what we've got. But no, we just always put it out to the committee. I know last meeting got busy. It didn't make it as a conclusionary or an item at the end of it. So we just want to make sure we get that on the record, make sure the group's good with it, and then.
yeah. Are the committee members, I mean, this is a resident-driven committee, obviously, and so I just want to check with our resident committee members. If we kind of temporarily go with a 5 o'clock Thursday meeting, for the foreseeable future, let's say, is that going to work, or is that going to cause some issues with work schedules and so forth?
That's fine with me.
Lori?
Yeah, I own my own business. I'm okay with 5 o'clock. That's fine.
Tim, I know you're a busy man these days. How about you?
Fine. I do have other commitments on Thursdays at 7, so actually 5 o'clock is
Works,
better.
All right, and then, Mark, can we just check with Jason?
Yep, we'll follow up with him.
Make sure that works. Okay,
Yep.
so hearing kind of a consensus, I think, looking into 21, we'll schedule committee meetings, transportation committee meetings at 5 o'clock. Obviously, if we need to change that, we can do that depending on what the members of the committee have to say and what works with everybody's schedules. But right now, we'll stick to a 5 o'clock Thursday meeting on the dates that Mark has presented to the committee members. Okay?
Works.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on with the agenda. Agenda item number 6, held items. I'm not seeing any held items at this point. New business, number 7. Any new business?
So yes, not too long ago, we received an email notification, actually went to the supervisor's office about the intersection of Sweets Corners and Harris Road. So Harris Road is a kind of a straight through, however, there are stop signs on Sweets Corners approaching Harris. There's a concern about it from a resident about cars blowing through the stop signs through the intersection and crossing over Harris Road without stopping. I've gone out and taken a look. The stop signs and stop bars are present. They're kind of easy to, they're visible. It's kind of a
too
bad
far.
picture right
too
there,
far.
showing at least the stop bar itself. It has been kind of repainted and is better. I guess the only other option that I can kind of think of would be to put, a second stop sign on the opposite side of kind of the intersection, so you see it both kind of on the left and the right side to draw a little more attention.
Eric, haven't we had issues at this intersection in the past? Because that house looks terribly familiar. I think there was several accidents at this intersection.
Yeah, we've evaluated this one a couple of times, going
Okay.
back through history. We've looked at it. I don't know if people, again, just kind of get caught up in life and you're rolling down Sweets Corners and don't pay attention. But Harris is a through intersection at this location, and Sweets has the stop on it. And, so we have looked at it. We've had some accidents in the past. We've, tried to, adjust the signage. We put a stop bar out. We've done some evaluation. I think the county has helped us, take a look at that point in time. Harris
How about a
is,
sign that says cross traffic does not stop? I mean, that may help.
yeah, we could look at, doing that as well, just to highlight it, because Harris is a county road, and I know.
Okay,
I think,
yeah. I was going to say, who controls the intersection? You just answered that. It's a county?
yeah,
County
Harris
intersection?
is a county road?
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
So I know we've looked at it, we had the county take a look at it in the past. It meets all the standards and everything else, it just, why are some people just not seeing it, and, you know, what's the issue?
Okay. All right, well, maybe we can
Was-
keep, I'm sorry, go ahead, Tim.
Was the request that people were not stopping, or they were slowing down and not coming to a full stop?
That they were not stopping whatsoever.
I think the most recent one, some people have just blown right through it and just not even stopped at Sweets to even see the stop sign and gone across, and thankfully no one on Harris had come at the moment, so there wasn't an accident, but just that people didn't even stop at all. So we
And
can,
the sight distance, obviously, you can see these signs, it's free and clear there, other than double posting. It's one thing when people see the stop sign, they don't stop, it's another if they just go right through it like they never saw it.
Yeah,
Then
the signs
Double
are,
posting may help.
yep, the signs are visible, kind of where the kind of position from, you know, the Google Street View. It is difficult to see, kind of any cars that are on Harris Road heading southbound as you approach that intersection. There's kind of a large bush, you know, and hedgerow right there, so it'd be foolish of anyone not to stop, because you can't see what's coming southbound, you know, or really northbound. But especially if you're heading eastbound on Sweets Corners, it's difficult to see. And you know, same thing on Harris Road, you can't necessarily see who's coming. So some of the concern with cars not stopping is kind of what's triggered this.
Right. All right, so Mark, maybe we can continue to make the county DOT aware of some concerns with this particular intersection, and see if they have any recommendations, or, you know, maybe take a look at it to see if there's something that we can improve upon, you know, or something like that, you
Yep.
know, so.
so either look at, you know, we can work with them whether double posting makes sense, you know, as Eric and Tim had suggested, or, you know, cross-traffic doesn't stop, but since
Yeah.
it, you know, it falls into the county's intersection, you know, we'll work with them to come up with a
Okay,
potential solution for it.
yeah. All right, is that recommendation or steps forward okay with the Transportation Committee?
That's fine
Yeah.
with me.
It works.
All right, thank you. All right, any other new business?
Well, I don't
Hearing-
know if this would
Yep.
actually be new business or not, but has anybody else besides me driven along Ridge Road in Webster and seen the massive, huge, long sidewalk that they're putting in? Can we find out where they got that money for the sidewalk? I would love to be able to put in sidewalks on some of our busy roads, just like they did. I'm sure it was some sort of grant. I don't know who it was from, but it would be really helpful if we could copy that.
Yeah, I can follow up and check with Webster and see, you know, where they got that from. I know they had a fatality with a pedestrian on Ridge Road a year or two ago, and, you know, whether they, you know, that's subsequent to that.
It could be a community
This is-
development
My
block
guess
grant.
could be some,
Yeah,
This is all along Ridge Road. It's not only where that accident happened, but it's all the way up. I mean, I was just
Oh,
by Holt
yeah.
Road there, and it's all the way up there. So it's pretty much the length of Ridge Road in Webster. So
Eric,
that's
or, yeah, no, Lori,
Lot of fun.
that's a good comment. Mark or Eric, could one of you maybe reach out to your counterparts in Webster and just kind of see if you can get a little extra information on that? It could be a community development block grant that they were successful with, just like we are on many occasions. It's just they've allocated their dollars towards that particular
Oh, okay.
project.
Yeah,
It would just be interesting.
they got federal money from that, and I believe it was TAP money,
okay.
which is for transportation enhancements.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
Since it was federal, then you have to go with all the federal, and they spend a ton of money on easements and working with the public on that, to get those easements secured so that they could build that. It took them about, I think they designed that thing for about 3 years.
I was gonna say that started 3 years
But it
ago.
was federal money, I know that, because they got several amendments through the GTC.
Okay.
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 And we've gone after TAP money before, you know, whether not always for sidewalks, but I know Panorama Trail, we, you know, went after that for some drainage improvements. We've gone for others. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't, but, you know, obviously any time or opportunity we can get, you know, money for improvements,
Absolutely.
you know, we'll pursue them.
Yep. All right, good comment, Lori.
Yep, anytime.
All right, any other new business before the committee? Okay, hearing none, then I'll go ahead. The next meeting of the Town of Penfield Transportation Committee will be November 19th at 5 PM. And with that, I will go ahead and adjourn tonight's meeting. So thank you all for coming. Thank you for participating. Thanks to the town staff for all their assistance. Committee members, thank you for your participation. And to the residents of Penfield, thank you for tuning in. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night, all.